I have done the Artist's Way twice. Here is how it can help literally any creative person and what I have learned from it. First of all, I should maybe tell y'all that I am a singer, songwriter, and producer, and I'm also an author. I am not sure how much of all of that I would be without the Artist's Way. I have done the Artist's Way twice, once in 2021 and once in 2023. And I'm considering doing it again, like I'm getting the itch again. Let me get into how I was doing it and why I was doing it. So in 2021, I was originally doing it for writing and for being an author. The thing is, it unearthed and it really made me realize how much I didn't just want to be a writer. I wanted to be a singer more than anything else. That was quite a journey, let me tell you. And the reality is I'd been dreaming of being a singer since I was like 5 years old. And I still wanted to be a singer when I was like 17, 18, graduating from high school. Life just got in the way, I guess, So I ended up pushing it down and shoving it away and being like, I can maybe be a writer, but I can never be a singer. Just forget about that part of you. When I was doing the Artist's Way in 2021, I must have been about 24. So I'd shoved it down and down and down for 5+ years and it wasn't working. Because it didn't take long to unearth. Like 2-3 weeks in, I realized I wanted to be a singer much more than anything else. So I ended up doing the rest of the Artist's Way that time about being a singer and becoming a singer and how can I fulfill this dream of mine that I've had since I was 5 years old, which is at that point almost 20 years. In 2023 is less of a turning point, admittedly. I was doing it specifically for music. It didn't bring anything as big and as revealing in 2023, but it still definitely helped me. But here are the things that I learned, which is probably what y'all have been waiting for to hear, but this was just the intro, so you have a little bit of an overview of how I got into this and what it has brought me before we actually get to lessons. So the first lesson I learned, and this is one that I keep on learning, and that honestly probably everybody who does the Artist's Way will learn, morning pages. They help you. Even when they're annoying, especially when they're annoying, even when they bother you and you're like, oh, why do I have to write morning pages again? I already did yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. They're good for you. All that messiness in your brain, all the things that are bothering you, you just spew it out on the page. And then you have more space in your brain for all the creative stuff, for all the nice stuff. So it has a little bit of space to unfold and do its thing and dance around all crazy and make beautiful art. You need it, trust me. I have been writing morning pages consistently since 2021. They still help me. I've had occasional phases in between, like for example this year when I had some health issues, where I didn't write morning pages as consistently. And then I returned to them and I realized just how badly I need them, how badly my brain needs them. I personally have anxiety, like I have an anxiety disorder. And I realized that whenever I write morning pages, it's not quite as bad. I'm not saying morning pages heal mental illness, but they can help quieten things down a little bit. That's what they've done for me. Maybe somebody else will have a similar experience. Okay, so I have lessons according to the weeks. So if you have the Artist's Way, you can go along with it if you want to and look into those chapters. I don't have a lesson that I learned from every single week because otherwise this would get really long, but I have like half a dozen lessons or so that were really important for me in the process of the last 4 years. The first one I have is from week 2. It is about poisonous playmates. And I feel like once you make yourself aware of that a lot of, especially as artists, surround ourselves by people that are considered poisonous playmates, we realize how many there are. They just kind of suck the joy out of a lot of things, and especially out of creative endeavors. And it's best usually to minimize the exposure you have to them, where and if you can. Especially when I was first doing this, I realized First of all, I have a lot of poisonous playmates around me, but I also don't have a lot of people around me that support my art. And I needed to change the ratio, for sure. Like significantly up on the people who are also artists and who support art and creating, and significantly down on poisonous playmates. They bring you nothing positive. The less exposure you have to them, the better. From week 3, I learned that I carried a lot of shame for being a creative and for wanting to fulfill my creative dreams. Nobody in my family does that. Nobody in my family has done that in the past either, aside from like one painter that was in my family like about 100 years ago or maybe even longer ago. So in my family, it's kind of normal to just, you can do it as a hobby. You can totally play guitar as a hobby or sing as a hobby or write as a hobby, but it will never be considered acceptable to be a musician as a full-time job. So I had a lot of shame surrounding that. It was really difficult to admit to myself that there was so much shame. There was more of it in 2021 than there is in 2023 or than there is now. But I know that I still carry shame for wanting to be an artist, for wanting this to be my full-time job. For everyone who doesn't know this, I do work part-time in the library because making art does not create me a full-time income yet. That is the operating word here. We are heading towards it and in slow and small steps, but we'll get there. Week 4 for me was about buried dreams, honestly. And I feel like this was especially during the first time that I did this in 2021. A lot of us creatives have buried dreams. Even if we do create on a fairly regular basis, we carry some shame for the dreams we bury really deep. We bury them really deep because we have some shame for them or we're scared of them. For me in 2021, it was unearthed. I want to be a singer. I want that more than anything else in the world. And I am a singer now. But it has taken a lot of really excavating and playing archaeologist to get to the full extent of this dream. I have huge dreams concerning being a singer. Some of them I have fulfilled. A lot of them I haven't fulfilled yet. And I know that I have the potential to fulfill a lot of them eventually, but it takes time. And the first step to getting there, to eventually being able to fulfill these dreams, is you have to find them or you have to admit that this is your dream or this is a part of your dream. So excavate your dreams. They're worth so much and creativity is worth so much. The next one is from week 6 and it is about money madness. The entire I think chapter 6 is the entire chapter or most of the chapter that is about money in general. But money madness, this part of the chapter focuses on the starving artist and the whole mindset of you will never be able to make enough money with your art to survive on that. That's not true necessarily. I feel like a lot of us need to do a lot of reframing when it comes to money. I feel like a lot of us grew up with a bad mindset around money, or perhaps our parents not being ideal role models in that way, or not teaching us really how to cope with money and with the insecurity that sometimes comes with that. Obviously, if we look at artists and money, the first things that come to mind are like the starving artist, which is like, I hate it, but it's still kind of romanticized a lot, actually. And I really don't like that. The reality is quite a lot of artists can live off of their art. We have to find a way to realize that it is definitely possible to make your art and make money with it. It's not just the one extreme and the other. It's always a scale. It's not just BTS or Taylor Swift versus all the ones that are not making a single cent of their art. No, it's not either or. There is a huge scale in between them. This year, I discovered a few artists on social media that are still fairly small artists. Like they don't have hundreds of thousands of followers or millions of monthly listeners, but by the way they go about making art. And in my case, these people are singers that I'm talking about. By the way they go about it, they are able to make a full-time living off of that. Of course, it takes planning. Of course, it is hard work, and 40-hour weeks are perhaps not always realistic when you do that. But they make a living off of it. One of the ones that I really enjoy on TikTok is Rachel Croft. She talks about this very openly and very regularly. And I feel like people like that, and I've tried surrounding myself with more people like that, they inspire me and they provide good role models that I didn't really have growing up. But the more we surround ourselves with people that actually portray that it is possible to make a living off of your art without being a huge star, the easier it is for us to believe this too, and to start working on this mindset that we have around that and feeling better about it. I know that money is a really difficult topic, especially for artists, and especially for people who grew up in somewhat financially dire situations. I myself had something like that happen when my dad died. Of course, my family had my mom, my sister, and I, we had the safety net of our grandparents that could help us in emergency situations. But it was still hard, and I learned to be scared of money at a very early age. And I don't think I've fully ever shaken that, but I'm working on it. From week 7, the lesson that I learned is about jealousy. And I quote here, the quote is, "Jealousy is a map." Jealousy is a map. It is a map to what we actually want. I know that jealousy has a really bad reputation. Some of it definitely, it's good that it has a bad reputation because some parts of jealousy are really bad. But when it comes to dreams and potential and living the life that you want, jealousy is not necessarily actually a bad thing if you're able to observe your jealousy and then take a few really big steps back and be like, oh, so this is why I was jealous. Because whatever I was jealous about, this is something that I want too. This is something that I want for myself too. This is something that I'm dreaming of. Instead of continuing to be jealous at this person, forget about them for a moment and write down, this is specifically what I want. How can I make this happen? For example, I was like, I remember this from 2023. I was like, I'm kind of jealous of Halsey. And I took a few steps back and I looked at it and I'm like, I'm kind of jealous of Halsey for having all these, aside from obviously she's a fantastic artist, but that's not what I was jealous of. She has all these really cool collaborations. And I was kind of jealous of her collaboration with BTS because I like BTS a little bit. So what can I do to be less jealous? I started doing cover songs, BTS cover songs, among others, not just BTS, but a lot of BTS cover songs. I was so focused on creating these that I kind of stopped being jealous. I had no more brain space to be jealous because I didn't get to sing with them. I didn't get to create an original piece together with them. But I still got to create something in connection with them. That made it a lot better. Use jealousy. Act upon it in a distant, healthy way like this. Take the steps back. And you can learn so much from your jealousy about what you actually want and dream of. The last lesson I want to share with you is about blasting through blocks, which is from week 9. And there is this exercise in this chapter that is about why are you feeling resentment towards doing specific activities that might bring you closer to your goal. You list out why you're feeling resentful, why you're feeling angry. You write it all down. You get it all out of your head and onto the paper. Obviously, you'll also see how silly you're being. Like, it's not that deep and it's not that hard when you're writing it down. And you're like, why was I ever scared of it? You list all your fears and you list what you're gaining by not doing whatever you're feeling resentful or angry towards. For example, for me, at the moment, that is busking. I feel like it would really bring me a few steps further in my creative journey because I have tried to get performances, so many and so often, but aside from one that was being shady and I didn't end up doing that, aside from that, you don't usually get answers back most of the time. So I feel like outside of TikTok lives, for me, busking is currently the only real chance to actually get to perform live and in person. I am feeling resentful for having to do that, for always having to take such small steps before I take bigger steps. Like, I have already been doing TikTok lives for well over a year regularly, and that has been helpful, definitely. That's not the only way performing works. If I want to be on big stages, eventually, I will have to make and create opportunities for small or non-existent stages, but still in front of people before then. So that's what I'm doing. I did have fears around it, and I did have resentments around that, because obviously, like, why do I have to make it this small? And it's annoying because in the city I live, you're not allowed amplification, and there's only like one somewhat good busking spot. All the other ones are really crap, and you can forget about them. So if you don't get that one spot, you can go home. It's hard. It's not fun. What do I gain from not doing this? I don't have to force myself to stand there and sing for potentially nobody. I'm not going to make a fool of myself, but also I'm not going to get to practice. I'm not going to be able to expose myself to all these people. You know, you work through that exercise and you realize you're just being stupid. And it's okay to be stupid sometimes and to be angry and to have resentment. But don't let it stand in the way of your dreams. Don't be your own burden towards your dreams. The last thing I want to say is, and this is a direct quote from page 180, creativity is its own reward. Yes, we all have our big dreams to do with creativity and where we want to be, and potentially even what awards we want to win and what stages we want to be on or what galleries we want to be exhibited at, things like that. But creating in and of itself is beautiful. It is its own reward for finally allowing ourselves to be creatives again and unblocking ourselves as creatives. I feel like the creative journey inevitably is one of ups and downs. That is also part of the reason why I keep redoing The Artist's Way every few years. Because when you've overcome one or two or three of these blocks and hurdles, maybe you're gonna need a little bit of help. How do I go about the next few steps now? How do I overcome the next few steps? What is something that is currently still buried deep within me that I need to work on more? The Artist's Way is about confronting yourself. It is about finding out what is standing in your way inside of you. You can be the creative of your dreams. You can create your dreams and turn them into reality. Sometimes we need a little help with that and a little guidance. And I feel like that is The Artist's Way. For me, that's been very useful. As a closing remark, be creative. Give The Artist's Way a try. I can totally recommend it. I keep on recommending it to friends too. They might be tired of it by now. Enjoy your time on this planet how you want to. Follow your dreams. It doesn't matter in the end what your family thinks. It doesn't. Or your friends, or your coworkers. It is not their life. It is your life. It is your only chance at fulfilling exactly all the things that you've always dreamed of. Do that so that you never have the regret of not giving it a try. On that somewhat somber note, this is Petiago coming to you from my bed. This is my bed that I'm sitting on. If you like this video, please give it a like. Definitely a comment, especially if you've already done The Artist's Way or if you plan on doing it. Please subscribe. Please come back. I do create a lot of videos, or I try to. Alright, see you, bye! HSV or something.